Is there anyone in the world who has not experienced stress? I seriously doubt it. With the pandemic that is affecting so many people, a large portion of the world, the stress has increased for many of those people. So since the pandemic has caused so much stress for some, I want to address what I'm going to call pan stress. Pandemic defines as what affects all people or a population. For the purpose of this video, I'm coining a new word, pan stress, as in involving everything that causes stress. Some people don't seem to get stressed over hardly anything. Then there are those at the other end of the spectrum who get stressed over almost everything. Most people fall between those extremes. Besides what we might call the normal stressors in our lives, we have in the last few months had restrictions and requirements due to the COVID pandemic, which are adding more stress and anxiety. Now parents are having to become school teachers while trying to maintain their regular jobs if they still have one. Isolation has led to seemingly more stress and anxiety, resulting in an increase in domestic violence arrests, child abuse cases, and to more drug and alcohol abuse. Then if you listen to all the negative news, you don't know who is telling the truth or is giving their opinion, and that can add to the stress and anxiety. Pan stress. Let me give you a few pointers on how to deal with the stress and anxiety in your life. These come straight from the textbook, the Bible. You're probably familiar with these, but sometimes we need to be reminded of what we already know, don't we? So here we go. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and then He shall direct your paths. The question you need to ask yourself then is, who do I trust? Myself or God? Here's what God said about anxiety in Philippians chapter 4, verses 5 through 7. Be careful for nothing. The word careful in this verse refers to being anxious. So we can say be anxious for nothing. Of course, you ask, how? And he goes on to explain how to do it. In everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Prayer, supplication, which is being more specific in your request. So by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. If you do that, he tells us then in the next verse what will happen. He said, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Then God tells us how to think. He said, if there's any virtue or praise in these things, think on them. What things? Whatever's true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. Notice he didn't say anything negative. He said whatever is true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. Think on those things. The prophet Isaiah said in chapter 26, verse 3, that God will keep the person in perfect peace whose mind is stayed or steadfast on Him, because that person trusts in God. In summary of pan stress, dealing with stress and anxiety, you trust God, not yourself. You acknowledge Him in everything. Refuse to be anxious. Make your request to God with prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving. Think on the right things, not the stressful things. And God's peace, which passes understanding, will keep your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. It works. Try it and be blessed.